Good afternoon. Welcome back to Veterans Today. You're listening to us on WCEG Network, the WCEG Talk Radio. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You can also watch us on your smart TV and YouTube. You can call in and join the conversation at 678-619-1402. I am Herman Anderson, and back as one of the co-hosts. And
I'm Anthony C. Aiken. Anthony C. Aiken, co-host, and our guest today is
Morocco Coleman.
You know, during the first hour, we had a very interesting conversation, and that's what I like to call it, Herman, a conversation about things of importance for veterans. We talked about the Agent Orange, we talked about the Blue Water, we talked about veterans not being seen on a timely basis because of lack of support or lack of staff or even funding and even ratings of hospitals. So the first hour was a very, very good hour. You know what I mean? Very good. But for this hour, Herman, I wouldn't mind if we would talk about one program that I personally went through and I'd like to talk about, and that's the VA Home Loan Guarantee Program.
Great.
It's a good program. I didn't know much about it, so I had to go and do what's called research, and found out that it's a VA guaranteed loan that are provided by private lenders such as banks and mortgage companies, but not directly by the VA directly. Once I realized that this process was out there, then the next thing became of importance to me was the certificate of eligibility. And what that represents is that the VA is verifying that your spouse military service to the lender qualifies you for a VA-backed loan, and which is the easiest way to obtain that is to go to eBenefits for those that have it, the ebenefits.va.gov, and you can look for getting your certificate of eligibility. And I can tell you, once that process started, I got the certificate of eligibility. I got a person to come out to do an appraisal on my home, which gave me the, comparables to my home in that area. And we started the negotiations with my particular lender. And before I knew it, it was done. It was a done deal. And it saved me a whole lot of money. I didn't have to worry about paying, additional insurance for that particular property. It just went on my merit. Once I had a good score, and at that particular time, my score was much higher, but they said you have a basic score of a minimum of 620. That person's eligible, 620 and above. So there's that process you can go through. We keep talking about that word process. It's the Home Loan Guarantee Program, which is backed by the VA for you to get your home.
Yeah, they don't particularly give you the money.
No.
But they're saying to these lenders out here,
correct,
we will back this individual to go forward with this loan, and this loan you're going to give them, and we'll back them.
We're going to back them.
And it was like, I think, what was it, 160,000 back in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, it's way more than that now.
And now it's, I think,
477,000.
Yeah. 400.
And it also too depends on your county.
Yeah.
You can be in a different county in Georgia and get a higher or even lower rate.
Well, you can, and also the key. Another key to that is if you're getting a conventional loan,
correct,
you need a down payment.
Yes.
And with this, that's you can get started without the down payment.
Zero. Nada.
And I've seen instances, and it happened to me back in the 70s. And I've asked this question in the last couple of years in talking to a lender or agent. How about going VA? Well, and then they start soft shoeing.
They don't know it.
Yeah, and they don't know it, or they want to take you down the road to
they're gonna get more
who they use and all this kind of stuff, and closing costs here.
Yeah, it's all about the dinero.
So do your research and push the issue. You're a veteran. you've paid for it already, and that's why the VA is backing you. So use those benefits that you have.
Well, that's is true, and there's another reason some real estate agents, they don't get all of the accessory fees that they get if you use a conventional loan, if you use VA, because VA has, again, a process.
Correct.
This is what we're going to pay you for. Yeah. We're not going to pay you for some of this other stuff.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not only just for a new home, but it can be for a refinance.
Yeah.
Now, refinance, you don't have to get any money out of it, but if you do, and you have the equity in your home, and that equity is based on your appraisal and the comps in your areas, you can get up to 100% of that money. And this is what I know. I've known several veterans that go through this and had homes over $500,000. And there's a process, they call it the jumbo, but these veterans were able to get, I know one veteran got almost $380,000 out of his home to pay for items.
Right.
And all he had to do is to provide the account that they wanted to pay off to that particular lender. That lender would send to them a FedEx package with checks already cut. And all that veteran has to do is mail that off.
Okay.
This is what I know. I've seen it. And I knew there was this one particular veteran I'm talking about with $380,000. He was like, I didn't believe I was sitting on that much equity in my home.
Wow.
And he got it.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do? It gives him a jumbo loan. But look, he doesn't have any other debts.
Right. Right.
He doesn't have any debts. So the only thing he has now is his mortgage. And of course, his utilities, but cars paid, loans paid off, debt cards, credit card, everything's done. He is literally debt free other than the mortgage in his home.
See, what this brings about is what my organization originally started with, to help you get your benefits and entitlements. And it's not just your disability benefits or your medical benefits. It's the education.
Correct.
It's the housing.
Correct.
It's barrier benefits. And like we said in the first half hour, a lot of time we don't know what's available if we don't prepare ourselves. If we don't do our homework, and we are veterans, we're not really getting everything that we earn.
Herman, I realize what we're saying. We're trying to tell them to go and do their homework. But these old knuckleheads out there, rules of engagement, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. These are your rules of engagement. You know how it is in the military. You had the rules of engagement, you had your medals lists, your missing essential task list, whatever that was, your standard operating procedure. Follow that one of those to get what you need done.
And once you get into that process, back to the military, you assess the objective.
There you go.
What is it going to take to accomplish this objective?
There you go.
And once you become engaged, then you use that, the ninth lawful order? I shall not desert my post until properly relieved. But once you engage in going after your benefits or your entitlements, you don't leave that post. You don't leave that issue that you're into without being properly relieved. And the proper relief is when what Colonel is saying about this guy finds he's got $300,000 of equity and he's got all of these benefits, entitlements from the VA and didn't know anything about it.
Didn't know a thing about it. He was just totally lost. And all of a sudden, there are mortgage companies out there now that are veteran friendly.
Yeah.
That's all they deal with are veterans. And their goal is to help veterans and educate them. And they're very, very patient with you to explain what you're getting into. Matter of fact, I spoke to one not long ago, and he said this particular veteran that just refinanced and got all these things done, we're going to come back to him in 6 months. And there's another program called, I think it's VILL or something, where they can actually reduce the veteran's payment even more. Because he is a veteran.
That's great.
But again, it took, and this one particular company I'm talking about, I think it was First Federal Savings, but it was started by a Navy officer who was very particular in working with veterans to ensure that they got their benefits.
Well, that brought a thought to my mind, because I do business both with Navy Federal and USA agents today. those they recognize that you're a veteran, and some of the opportunities that other banks wouldn't tell you about, they would tell you.
They will tell you about it, because they're there. They're veterans. I mean, at this one particular person I was assisting with, and we spoke with this agent on the phone representing this company. He said, let me tell you guys, first of all, I'm a veteran myself. I spent 20 years in the military. I understand what you're going through, and I will be very patient with you and walk you through the steps. Everything will be done electronically. So if you don't have a person, if you're not sharp on electronics yourself, get somebody to help you, because every document, we will never send you one paper. Mm-hmm. Everything was done electronically. The only thing you're going to get paper is checks when they come in the mail. And that came true.
Now, another thing is kind of deviating a little bit, but probably will tie in. There are veterans out there that did not get an honorable discharge.
Correct.
Yes.
And they don't ever go to the VA. They may have been wounded in Vietnam, or they might be suffering from one of these disabilities from Agent Orange, mm-hmm. but they've never gone to the VA to file, or they may have been told that they are ineligible for any kind of benefits because they didn't have an honorable discharge.
Correct.
If your DD 214 says dishonorable discharge, then no, you are not entitled to anything. But if you have honorable under conditions, if you have undesirable, unfit for military service, those do not prohibit you from getting veterans benefits and eligible and the things that you're eligible for. If they wanted to keep you from getting anything, they would have they would have been bold enough and disliked you enough to put dishonorable on there.
I like that.
But they couldn't get a clear shot at you. Exactly. They just didn't like you. You came that was their military. That was their mom and their daddy. You don't come in here and not play by the rules. I'm not bold enough to give you a dishonorable, so I'm gonna put on here undesirable. Hope you can't get a job, that kind of thing. And so look into that. A lot of guys walk around and don't, think that.
I mean, that's a big point, because I actually know some veterans that has discharges in one. I remember the words on one of them. It says other than honorable. And so
they think if it's other than honorable, it must be dishonorable. Not true.
Not true. There are ways to go about doing it. So if you receive anything but an honorable discharge, that will affect your VA ratings and everything else you can do. There's a process that you can do. Use. It's the obtain a copy of the DD Form 293, an application for the review of discharge or dismissal from the Armed Forces of the United States. So that is your first step. If you feel as though, and now right now, especially with the younger kids that we have the millennials out there. So they go out into let's say, for instance, they go to Fort Benning, any of the combat armed places, right? And they meet up with a young West Pointer. But then you come from, over here on Buckhead Road. Bankhead Highway. Mm-hmm. So, you got clashes of two personalities there. So, it's easier for this guy to use a skill craft to put you out there as other than honorable or dishonorable. Because there's a difference in where you come from. So if that happens to you, and it's happening more and more now, there is a process that you need to follow and understand and get the right things to do to get something corrected. Because once, as he stated before, you get those two words on that DD Form 214, dishonorable discharge, you are toast. You are done.
I help someone with that process, and that forms give you the opportunity to fill it out, to get letters of recommendation from the community, to go to actual Congress support. So it's back again. It's to the SOP, the process. You follow the process, and you never know. You can get it changed, upgrade. There's always a possibility.
There's always a possibility. Right. You got to be able to see it through. I guess it comes to the point is that do you still want to be squallowing, or do you want to have some uplift? You got to make that decision. So if you're comfortable being a squallower, if you're comfortable not doing the best you can for your family, then stay where you are. But if you look in the mirror and you know that there's an opportunity and you have someone to try and give you the guidance to take you through that maze, then get you a copy of that DD Form 293 application for review of discharge or dismissal from the Armed Forces of the United States and change your life.
In that same vein, back in 79, 80, I ended up going through PTSD and didn't know what it was because they didn't tell us.
Right.
And went through a divorce, and I lost a little junior mansion out in Snapfinger Woods. I lost my 2 cars. I lost my wife, my baby. I lost everything. And I ended up out in the streets of Atlanta homeless for 2.5 years. And while I was out there doing that 2.5 years, I was back in jungle mode, man. I was back in Vietnam, surviving any means necessary.
Yeah, man.
And it was dangerous out there. But at the same time, I'm hurting inside, so I'm waiting for something to come, you know. But there were people that reached out and some circumstances that helped me to start finding my way back. When I found my way back, it brought me to the bottom where I had to look up and say, now, how do I get up out of this hole? And once I got up out of there, I'm walking downtown and I see a sign that says Labor Department, Veterans Employment. And I go in, and this representative in there, I had long hair, combat boots, man, dirty, broke down. And this guy kept saying, yes, sir, Mr. Coleman. No, sir, Mr. Coleman. He was an older gentleman. I said, man, he's giving me my dignity back. And so I came back and forth, you know, to get job referrals from him. And he told me one day, he says, look, this is a full-time job, looking for a job, you know, so you have to keep coming back. And then I told him, I said, listen, I said, you mind if I come and just talk to you sometimes? He said, sure. He became my mentor. And he was the one that said, after a couple of months, he says, you need to apply for one of these jobs like I have. And I said, man, I'm not qualified for this. He said, well, yeah, you're a disabled veteran. You got to have this, you got to have that. And I'm saying, what the heck? And I applied. And I got the job. And that was in 1985. And like I said, I've been retired for 20 years. I'm still out here in the battle because somebody pulled me through.
And that's something.
And when you get yours, when you get that check that rolls in and everything, you're going to be excited and you're going to go out and buy the big piece of chicken and all the good stuff and everything. But don't forget
where you came from.
Where you came from, and the folks that helped you along the way. And you turn around, you reach back and give a veteran not a hand out, but a hand up.
Amen.
Because somebody did that for you.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's a exactly big point, and that's why some organizations, some veterans help veterans without charge, and then you have the other one that charge the legal fees. But some of us just want to give back.
I've never charged a dime, and I looked at it from 1985 until right now. People that I've gotten 100%, 70%, whatever. The ones that got the 100% that opened the doors for the kids to go to college and all these other benefits. And I figured up that I have probably, now I got a background in psychology, so I could hang out a shingle, man, you know, as a counselor, therapist. But I have made for veterans over $4.2 million from 1985 until right now. And if I took a third of that along the way, great. But I got my 100%. I got my retirement. I got my Social Security. And so the creator says, okay, now you tight on the home front. Now you go out here and take care of the least of these. You know? And so that's what we have to do. We didn't leave nobody in the field.
That's exactly right, man. You don't leave anybody behind. Everybody's journey and path is different. You just need to listen. And sometimes it just takes a word of encouragement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to say, hey, man, I'm here. Give me a call. I'll come by and see you. Let's go to lunch, have a cup of coffee and talk. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You just don't know what you will do to uplift someone to change their life.
Well, we just want to let you know, give us a call at 678-619-1402. We are Veterans Today. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
You know what? I'd like to make one point since we're just talking about the veterans going through that process. I got to give a shameless shout out to the family and the spouses.
Yeah.
Okay? I know for a fact that a lot of veterans come back with all kinds of issues. Because we serve somewhere, we didn't know what we were going to be serving or what we were going to be dealing with. But we left a spouse back here with kids and taking care of the home and our accounts, the whole 9 yards. And then when we come back, we try to go back to ground zero where it was. It ain't happening, brothers and sisters. That's a process. So I want to salute them because not only are they going to be your caretaker coming back one day, because that's what they are, but they help keep your family unit together. And we don't give them enough kudos, etc. I saw a video this morning about, it takes a lot for women to smile because of the things that she had to endure. Mm-hmm. Bearing a child, raising the child, backing you up, take care of the household, doing all of these things while you're out there doing your thing in the background. But if we don't give them the kudos and the support, rub their feet down at night if you have to, say thank you 25 times, open the door for them, pull their seat out, being a gentleman, because they took care of you when you were out there taking care of the country.
And many veterans are coming back, and they have such profound injuries and illnesses that they have to go into an assisted living facility, or they have to go into a nursing home, or like the VA nursing home, or that same caretaker / wife, significant other, is taking care of that veteran at home, and it's a Herculean job.
Oh, it's a job.
Yes.
But the VA has something also, and you spoke about this earlier, aid and attendance. And back when I started, aid and attendance, when you have a statement from your doctor saying that this individual is totally and permanently disabled and needs assistance to bathe, to take the medications, to et cetera, then you can apply for aid and attendance, and if it's granted, the VA, at the time I retired 19 years ago, it was something like $2,600. It was $2,600 a month, tax-free, to offset the cost of home health care, having someone to come in and take care of that veteran, or assisted living, or nursing home. And I've talked to some people that know some things, and I discussed it recently because widows are eligible for it.
Correct.
Widows are eligible, and if they are a couple, the veteran and the wife both have to go into assisted living or a nursing home or home health care, that they will give extra for the wife. But I've been told recently that in order for that to happen, that the veteran must have a disability.
Correct.
And I'm still doing the research on that because I'm getting two look-sees. When I started first doing this, it wasn't required that veteran be disabled.
Yeah, that is true. That there has to have some type of a disability. I was just taking a look at this decision that was just rendered recently to me in regards to aid and attendance, and they went through a whole litany of things on why I was denied.
Okay.
And the one thing you need to know, veterans, if you get a denial from the VA, they will be very specific and why you're denied. And will give you the opportunity, if you disagree, to put in a rebuttal within a certain time frame.
That's a big point, because when you, whether it's for aid and attendance or whether it's for your disability, when you get a denial, you get an explanation on why they are denying you. You also get some additional information on what you can do to change it. So you need to read that in detail.
You're talking about a VA Form 4107, which is your right to appeal our decision. Each person has that right. But I remember Morocco on the show maybe a couple of years ago when we were talking about the decisions. And some veterans would say, well, I'm very disappointed because I received a 0 rating. That's not necessarily bad. You want to expound on that?
You get your paperwork, and it'll have 5 or 6 things that you applied for, and each one of them might be 0.
Correct.
or they may give you 10% for one and all the others are zero. And you say, shoot, man, they gave me just zeros on here. If they say on the paper that we are not giving you any disability for this, then you get nothing. If they have 0%, that means that if you don't have any disability at all and you got 4 or 5 zeros, that means that yes, you are a disabled veteran, but your conditions, whatever they were not big enough
At that time. Yeah.
to come up to a total of at least 10%
Correct.
to where you get paid.
Correct.
But a 0% now means that you are a disabled veteran and you're entitled to benefits as a disabled veteran.
Exactly right.
And if you have, I think it's 4, if you have 4 or 5, I think it's maybe 4, if you have 4 zeros on there, you go talk to your representative and that can possibly be converted enough to give you a 10% where you get paid.
Correct. So again, understand the rules of engagement, knuckleheads.
Yep.
You know,
rules of engagement.
Understand the rules of engagement, and be educated. And get to know people, and stop trying to do it yourself.
And one thing too is when you get your letter of denial, read it. Don't just read the first page and throw it.
That's what I do in my work in helping veterans get their benefits. Don't you do what I'm getting ready to tell you, because a little learning is a dangerous thing, and you'll have just enough to go and waste 8 or 9 months thinking that you know what you're doing here, and then you get shot down and you've lost time. Go to a representative or somebody that knows what they're doing with what I'm getting ready to tell you. When they give you that rating paper back, you're looking for one thing on there to see whether or not you got this disability. And you might see, boom, they gave me 20%, but I was thinking it might be 50%. And you say, well, that does help. Or you might be that individual that gets back that paper and it says, we're denying all of your claims, you get nothing. And you say, boom, I knew they were going to do that. And you throw the paper down and you don't look any further. When I talk to veterans in that situation, I say, read the denial to me. Well, they denied me because this, that, and blah, blah. Okay, now I want you to go down further into page 2 or page 3, and it will have in there why they gave you what they gave you.
Correct.
And what would it have taken for you to get a higher rating.
Correct.
It might say that we're denying you because you didn't have, you didn't present this, this, and this. I take that paperwork, draw it up, and write it up in their language, which you don't understand. I write it in their language back to them, and I say, well, my person here has now developed this, this, and this. And that goes under the radar. I had a guy to come up, and Mr. Coleman, I need some help. I've been filing for 5 years. I served in Vietnam. I got night sweats. I got can't sleep. I got trauma. I got this. I got that. And I'm saying, okay, well, for 5 years you've been filing. He said, yeah, they turned me down. I keep appealing. I said, okay, you served in Vietnam combat? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, so now with all of these conditions that you have, what are you applying for? He said, I'm applying for a nervous condition. I say, VA has no disability called nervous condition. Give me the paperwork. I corrected the paperwork to post-traumatic stress disorder, and it flew right on through. Now, also, a lot of these veterans that are coming back now, they go and they file for PTSD, but they get caught in a trap, and they don't realize they're put in this trap. They swing this thing around when you're telling them about what your trauma was, and et cetera. And they're asking certain questions. And now veterans are contacting me and saying that they got maybe 10 or 20% for depression. Right. So I said, but what about, did you talk to them about PTSD and these factors that contribute to PTSD. Well, yeah, but they kept asking me about this over here. And so it looks like that the conversations are being weighted towards disabilities that would fall in the category of depression. Once you get that diagnosis for depression, you can't, there's exceptions to the rules, but you can't now go back over here and say, well, wait a minute, I'm talking about PTSD and try to get to PTSD, because they have given you now a psychosis.
Correct.
Okay?
Right.
So you want to stick, you need to read up on Desert Storm, Rocket Freedom, whatever period of time you were in a combat situation, go online on the internet and look up for PTSD among Desert Storm veterans, or whatever your period of service was, and look at those case histories of what they said, and you're going to see yourself there. And when you see yourself, you jot those things down, and that's what you want to present when you're talking to the psychologists or the professionals there about this PTSD, and don't get caught up in depression and some of those other psychological terms.
Yeah, man. It's. I'm sorry, Herman.
A thought came to my mind of when you're going through the medical process. I know some doctors will request, well, the VA might request you do a DBQ. So what are your take on DBQ?
You have to break DBQ down for me now.
What is it? Data. It's a questionnaire that you ask the doctor to fill out. Is what it is.
Dealing with PTSD.
It's dealing with different ailments.
Okay.
And usually they ask you primary care doctor. What I've had in the past is most VA doctors won't fill them out, but if you take it to a civilian doctor, they will fill it out.
Yeah, well, and that's what I recommend. If they give you a form or something like that, or you start to learn about, you go online, you learn these disabilities and whatnot, okay? Go to a private psychiatrist or psychologist, and you let them know, what you are applying for at the VA, and that, you're going to them professionally. And they will work with you. And if they give you the diagnosis of PTSD, then you can always take that medical opinion to the VA to support your claim. And it's been my experience that when the VA gets it, their VA doctors look at it, but they don't usually go against another doctor. Say, well, he's a professional like I am. He said, this is what the guy's got. Okay, what the heck? Then they usually send you, I don't know if they'll do it in that particular case, but in other disabilities, they send you for a QTC.
You're right.
A lot of guys they call me up and they're upset about, they send me to a QTC, the doctor didn't even look at me good. He didn't do this or she didn't do that. The QTC was set up because Vietnam veterans in the 80s and the 90s started complaining about, we would put our claims in, they would send us downstairs to a VA doctor. That VA doctor would say, no disability, or no PTSD, or no this, that, or the other. And then you go back and you're denied. So there was a group of guys that filed a lawsuit around the country. And they said, this is not fair. You're sending us to your doctor and we need a neutral opinion. So the lawsuit was won. And so the QTC medical evaluation was set up. The VA, that doctor does not work for the VA and does not work for you.
Nope.
This doctor is an independent doctor. The VA pays them for the service, but their job is to evaluate you, and they'll say, all right, we want you to evaluate Morocco Coleman for this and or this. And they'll tell you on that paperwork when you go, don't bring any medical documents.
Nothing.
Don't bring any papers or anything, because they say, well, I guess they say they don't want you to sway the doctors or whatever else. But every time I had a QTC, and you got to be creative, man, with this stuff here. And in filing these claims and your disabilities. Now, I got a little background in law too. So now in law, you can stretch the truth. You can stretch the rubber band of truth. Just don't break it. Okay, so you can stretch that truth, but you got to stay in bounds. But now, when I've gone to these QTCs, there was a time or two where I took some medical documentation. And as the doctor's examining me, and I'm talking to the doctor, and I'm saying, yeah, but like, doc, I've been turned down for the last 5 years on this, and they keep telling me this, that, and other. I mean, see this paper, you see what they said right here? I said, and it doesn't fit. And the doctor says, well, but at the same time, he says, wow, And so then we engage in conversation, okay? And it's like, when you get in front of people like this, you got to, whatever it is, you got to sell an Eskimo icebox.
I tell you,
got to sell yourself.
I was just going to mention that was a great analogy you just came up with. It is cognizant upon you, veteran, once you go to see your primary care physician or whatever, is to make sure that you understand what is being written. Now, the reason I say that, a lot of VA doctors don't understand the disability process. Mm-hmm. They don't have a clue what that is. They'll say to you, I'm just a doctor. Okay, that may be true, doctor, but these are the things I'm telling you that are wrong with me that you need to make sure it's in my record. Mm-hmm. Because if you just look at me as just a doctor and not understand the path or the process I went through to get to this point to see you, which causes me to see you, you need to document it. So if I come in here and tell you I was in Mekong Delta, Ho Chi Minh Hotel or whatever, and I'm all jacked up, mm-hmm. you need to put that in there, that this soldier was a POW in these locations and suffered these things as a result.
Right.
Now that's more definitive than saying, well, I was out there. No, let me know, or let them know that they need to write down specifically issues that when someone across the street in the regional office that still sees you as 9 numbers mm-hmm. or M4 numbers, that they can see your story.
Well, see what I've learned when we were playing sports, when we were going through basic training, repetition.
Of course,
it's mm-hmm. preparation.
Correct.
So you need to practice before you go to QTC. So you need to do your homework.
Right. Understand the rules of engagements, man.
Be ready to make the presentation.
Yeah.
And I'm a math guy. That's not my strong point, but I learned how to do it.
Yeah, you look at, say you go into QTC for your knee. And, your knee happened on active duty. You've got medical evidence and whatnot. Give that doctor a history.
Yeah.
And then read up whatever your doctor that sent you there, find out what that doctor said was wrong with your knee, first of all, okay? The patient has a torn medial meniscus. Okay, now I'm gonna go in here and talk to this QTC doctor about my bad knee. My knee hurts me. What's wrong with your knee? It just hurt right here.
No.
This, that, and other. No, you go look up. No. You go look up. Torn medial. Look up a medial meniscus. Look it up and see what it is. If you don't know, go to your phone and speak it in there. Torn medial meniscus.
Hey Siri, call us up.
Yeah, and get an understanding of what it means.
Yeah,
and at least be able to talk somewhat intelligently as you go in.
Understand.
And don't go in adversarial.
No.
Right. Don't go in like, I've been turned down before, or I ain't gonna let them get over on me. You go in, man, and you deal professionally. You keep the high ground.
Man. Yeah. You better keep the high ground.
If not,
because they're gonna remember your 9 numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, Herman, okay. 241.
You mentioned USAA insurance also. And for years, man, I had Geico, and all of a sudden, man, they kept going up higher. I got a ticket here. My wife had an accident, and it got ridiculous. And my buddy told me, he's president of Tuskegee Airmen, and he said, man, I got my wife, I got my daughter, I got my son-in-law, I got this one and that one, I got 5 cars, and he said, I'm paying half of what I was paying with these other companies.
Well,
I called up, man, USA Today. in USAA.
Yeah.
And the lady said, "Oh, all right, Mr. Coleman, now we can give you this." And I'm saying, "Whoa!" And I caught myself, and she heard me. She says, "I know you can't believe it, can you?"
Well, I can tell you that's true.
I said, "No, it's too good to be true."
I've been a member of USAA for 45 years.
She said,
"Hear me? 45 years."
She said, "Oh, just a minute, Mr. Coleman. I'm sorry. I said, "Okay, here it comes." She says, "I'm sorry. I see here where you had a ticket a couple of months ago." She says, "So that's going to change it." And I said, "Okay, how much?" She said, $2.50.
Yeah. So it's a good company.
Yeah, and it's for a veteran.
Yeah, I've been there for 45 years since I left college.
Yeah.
And I've utilized them for investments, insurance,
credit cards,
my homeowner's insurance. I use them exclusively for everything.
Yeah.
I've been with them for 45 years. So I can attest to you that what you're saying is absolutely accurate.
And I believe that when I joined, they told me that you become a stakeholder.
Yes.
And at a certain time of year, you get a little check or something.
Well, every December, you get a dividend check.
Yeah.
And if you're an old dog like I am, mid-February, you get what's called a senior policyholder check.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking for that. Yours too, right, Herman? Next week?
Yeah, it's good to go.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
And that's a little known kind of thing.
I'm saying,
as big as it is,
hey.
we're not really aware of it.
Hey.
Well, that's true. And that's particularly certain ethnic groups or whatever you want to call it, underserved. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not exposed to whatever reason the same information as other people are, right, unless we try harder to get it.
Right.
Unless you're listening to WCEG Network. Yeah. And we're going to give you that information because we're going to give you the truths. That's the game plan, to give you the truth and to motivate you to get out there to do the same thing, share the information with other veterans and help.
And I use the terminology sometimes. This was a movie back in the 70s. The spook that sat by the door.
Yeah, remember that one?
That was my job, is to get into the VA system. And once the nature of my work and everything, it put me in the midst of the knowledge.
Exactly.
And once I acquired that knowledge, then I have to bring it back to our communities and to stop the bleeding.
You're exactly right. And we talked about PTSD, so we try to give you the PTSD hotline each time we do a show. In the number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255. I also have the Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. 1-800-799-7233. The Veteran Crisis Line is same as the PTSD hotline. It's 1-800-273-8255. And also the homeless hotline is 1-877-424-3838. 1-877-424-3838.
Well, you guys, Herman, that's just tremendous information right there. Mm-hmm. That information is gold, and I'll give you a penny as we walk out because that's great, great information. But you notice I have on my Tuskegee Airman hat today. I'm a Tuskegee graduate, proud graduate, Tuskegee Institute, etc. But I'm honoring Charles McGee today.
Oh yeah, yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Colonel Charles McGee, now General Charles McGee.
Right.
Long time coming, and America saw him on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
A spry 100-year-old that's still able to walk. You notice the other veterans couldn't get out of their medical cards.
And he was also on the State of the Union.
State of the Union. And so I'm saluting him today and all of the other men that I've known that were Tuskegee pilots. Fritz Buck Newsom, a very good friend when I was in command in Colorado, had him to actually come to my command and to meet others. And I know Morocco, you're a member of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Been there 34 years.
30-some years. So I'm saluting you, and I'm saluting Chuck McGee, and it's just a long time coming for him to have gotten that star. And here we are in February, Black History Month.
That's true.
I met Colonel McGee back in '94 during the Congressional Black Caucus in D.C., where I was on the board, where I am on the board. And that year we honored the Tuskegee Airmen.
Correct.
And the General B.O. Davis.
Benjamin O.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he was, in the movies that you saw and everything, he was a colonel.
Yes.
Back during the movies that you see about the Tuskegee Airmen. He went to the military academy and West Point, and he was ostracized.
Big time.
They refused, because of his race, the cadets refused to speak to him. He ate in the mess hall by himself. Nobody would sit with him. And this man was so strong that he graduated with honors from the West Point and followed in the footsteps of his daddy. His daddy was World War I, B.O. Davis, and he was the first black brigadier general.
Yes.
His son ended up as, I don't remember, was a major general, lieutenant general.
Yeah, lieutenant general. I had the opportunity to meet him at the Air Force Academy one year when I was in command.
Yeah.
And they were honoring him at the U.S. Air Force Academy. But just to piggyback on to what you were saying, these men set the stage.
Yeah.
They set the stage.
Colonel Aikens.
Yes.
Colonel Aikens made that rank.
Right.
But he had to truly earn it.
Oh, yeah.
But the opportunity for him to even be in the ball game, we're talking about the shoulders that we're standing on. That open those doors.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I know that the road was filled with challenges. We can even go back to Charles O. Flipper.
Yeah.
From Thomasville, Georgia, going to the academy to be ostracized, and the things that he went through. It's just amazing of the intestinal fortitude that these men had to deal with. Blackshear, the first black deep sea diver.
And the movie's been on lately too.
Yeah, to lose a leg and have to go back and requalify as a master diver.
They say, you can't do that, man.
You can't do that.
Too heavy.
And he did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can just go back. The military has been spotted with heroism and legacies of men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for the freedom that we endure every day. So it would be a disgrace, a total disgrace, to not mention them.
Dory Miller was a cook on a Navy ship. And when they came under attack,
took over.
Folk were shot down, knocked out of position. The cook, Dory Miller, runs up on deck, gets behind one of these great big artillery pieces, and starts firing.
Now, how in the world did he know that? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's a cook.
He's a cook.
He's good on ham and eggs.
Basic training, they didn't teach him that.
No.
They trained him to cook.
But he stood up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And rose to the occasion.
And
we're working now to get him the Congressional Medal of Honor, because he has, right now he has Silver Star. And he has the Distinguished Service Cross.
Yeah, the two highest of the Navy.
Yeah.
But he should have the Medal of Honor. You see his picture everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. That's why it was so emotional for me with Charles McGee.
And I met him at the time that I met Colonel Davis, and all the Tuskegee Airmen. And like I said, I've been a member for 34 years. And as I travel around the country and I meet them or I go to the conventions, these men all have a certain theme that runs through them. They all have that officer and a gentleman kind of thing.
Exactly right.
Okay, but now they can break down and talk a little trash and whatever else. But they're military bearing, man. And I tell people when we go with the Tuskegee Airmen to speak at different places, and they say, well, Morocco, you go up and do the speaking. And I'm saying, no, I want to go up and introduce you guys, okay? And one of the things I take pride in is when I tell people, like, yeah, they were taught in basic training and everything how to fire their weapons, and some of them became, and how to fly these planes. So they became Top Guns and everything. But that was what they learned. The first thing about a Tuskegee Airman is flying that plane. He is a scientist.
Yes.
He has to study atmospheric conditions and pressures and the whole 9 yards. So they're highly educated and the cream of the crop.
Yeah. And that, just one more. Not only are the pilots, I salute the ground crew.
Oh, yeah.
Because if the ground crew wasn't there, the pilots couldn't fly.
Those are some of my best friends, and they would tell that captain or that lieutenant, like, sir, you bring my ship back now. Hey.
That's true. And we also we mentioned February is Black History Month. We had such a good time. The producer has already cut us off, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with another Veterans Today show. We hope you enjoyed it. You listen to WCEG Talk Radio. Have a good afternoon.